Thanks for joining us for another round of Newsmax Now. I'm Miranda Kahn.
Great to have everybody with us. Let's go ahead and get started this hour. We're going to first talk about a U.S. citizen held hostage in Yemen. Well, that person has now been released by those Iranian-backed Houthi rebels. The State Department says Casey Combs is in stable medical condition. An unidentified hostage from Singapore was also released today and transferred to Oman. Meanwhile, a French hostage abducted in Yemen is still pleading for help. Secretary of State John Kerry might have broken his leg, but the White House says that will not slow down those Iranian nuclear talks.
I'm confident that in whatever capacity he's able to participate, that Secretary Kerry will continue to play a critically important role in that effort.
He's going to be in a hospital bed for the next couple of days. Marie Harth, the State Department spokesman, says John Kerry's main objective for June is to remain on those same negotiations. He's on his way back to Boston for more medical treatment. The GOP presidential field getting a little bit more crowded today. This after South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham just announced he is running for president. Graham touted his national security credentials.
I have more experience with our national security than any other candidate in this race. That includes you, Hillary.
Senator Graham says if he is elected president, his goal will be to defeat radical militants. He says he is ready to be the next commander-in-chief.
The Senate voted to move forward today with new laws to replace the Patriot Act after it expired at midnight. The move makes it now illegal for the NSA to collect your phone records. Senator Rand Paul is being credited for blocking the act, but fears the battle is far from over.
I think the bill may be replacing one form of bulk collection with another. But the government, after this bill passes, will no longer collect your phone records.
196.
My concern is that the phone companies still may do the same thing.
Paul says the bill will probably pass. Intelligence experts say a lapse of just a few days will not have a huge impact.
Well, former House Speaker Dennis Hastert is ready to appear in federal court on Thursday. He's accused of lying to the FBI. He's also accused of trying to conceal millions of dollars in money transfers. He was allegedly paying somebody to keep quiet about past misconduct. Several reports say Hastert agreed to pay that hush money to hide allegations that he sexually abused a male student while he was a teacher and wrestling coach. New York's former Senate Majority Leader Dean Skelos and his son plead not guilty to corruption charges today. The 67-year-old Republican and his 32-year-old son are accused of extorting money from companies doing business with New York State. Charges include soliciting bribes and conspiracy to commit fraud. Both men will be back in court next month, and the judge will decide then when their trial will start. Shifting gears, Texas finally getting a break from all that heavy rain. Some sunshine today, but severe flooding stormed that region last week. At least 25 people reported dead. President Obama issued a disaster declaration for that state. The declaration frees up federal money to help Texas rebuild. But so far, there's no estimate for the total cost of the damage. Police warn that despite a break in the rain, the dangerous flood conditions will last for at least another couple of days.
There are some new rulings out today from the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of a man convicted of posting threatening messages on Facebook. The court says the standard used to convict Anthony Ellenis was too low. Ellenis was convicted in Pennsylvania for violating a federal threat statute after he posted violent messages on his Facebook account. This is the first time the court has addressed the issue of free speech on social media. The High Court has also ruled in favor of a Muslim woman who was denied a job at Abercrombie & Fitch. Samantha Aluf filed a lawsuit in Oklahoma after she says she was denied a job at Abercrombie back in 2008 because she wears a headscarf or hijab. The question before the court was if she was required to ask for religious accommodation in order for the company to be sued under the Civil Rights Act. She wore her headscarf to the job interview, but she did not ask for the religious accommodation. Abercrombie says it didn't hire her because the headscarf violates its looks policy for sales team members. American woman touring a South Africa park loses her life to a lion. Officials say the lion jumped into the woman's vehicle through an open window. She was with a male passenger who was taken to the hospital. The female tourist was dragged to her death in just minutes at the Lion Park near Johannesburg. The Lion Park is a popular attraction for tourists visiting South Africa. Isn't that the the most bizarre story. I mean, you're thinking in your head like she jumped out of the car, because you hear about people getting attacked by wild animals all the time. Not that through an open window this lion came in. I just,
Yeah, well, it's a reminder that wild animals are exactly that, wild animals. Even
animals,
if you think
right.
you're safe, you got a tough story there. We'll move on now. Miranda, let's talk about Hillary Clinton. A big announcement today. She's going to have her first major official campaign event in New York City at Roosevelt Island.
I already know what you're thinking. Will she take any questions?
No, she'll be on a podium far away from the question askers, I'm sure.
I bet you're right on that. Speaking of Hillary, New York Times columnist Maureen Dowd had this to say when she wrote about the mood in Hollywood surrounding a Hillary Clinton presidency. And here you have it. In her column, she says support of the former First Lady is more of a, quote, forced march. She notes comedian Bill Maher sent Obama's super PAC a check for $1 million and never received a thank you note. Maher says he will vote for her but won't fork over another $1 million. So the question is, will these feelings hurt Hillary, or is a donation, even if it's made reluctantly? It's not going to hurt her. You know, he did say on the show, though, that he would give it to Elizabeth Warren. He said if she would run, but she still...
Now, here's the thing, though. He never got a thank you note from President Obama, but of course, that donation was made to a pro-Obama PAC, I believe. So you can't coordinate directly with the PAC, so maybe he can't do that. The forced march, though, words stand out the most to me in that column, because it does kind of seem what it feels like. There's like this inevitability again to Hillary Clinton. And
I
you know,
think you're
even if
accurate.
she
I
does,
think a lot of people feel that.
let's say she does win the nomination, that does not sound like a winning strategy to get out the vote. And I think Democrats could be dealing with the same problem that Republicans faced in 2012, where you have a nominee who on paper looks like a good candidate, but doesn't get the juices flowing in the voters enough to go out to the polls, and then you have a turnout issue. And Hillary Clinton, not exciting a lot of people this time around.
No, but I mean, it kind of seems like you said, it's just a given. When I talk to people, they're like
a forced
she has
march.
It.
Like
she has it.
This is where it's going, and nobody's too excited about it. I guess they'll kind of support her if they have to, but you don't. Like you mentioned, Bill Maher willing to cut that check for Elizabeth Warren because it's perhaps something new, part of a change in the status quo of the American political structure. But who knows?
Some people are still predicting, though, that eventually transparency issues, her time working as Secretary of State and what happened in Benghazi, and all of these issues will eventually come back to hurt her, and that somebody else more exciting, at least on the Democratic side, will eventually jump out. But
time will tell.
yes.
Also, Miranda, we want to talk about some polls we were discussing earlier. Of course, folks can find stories about these up on Newsmax.com. But according to Gallup, once taboo social issues are now considered more acceptable, maybe not acceptable, but more acceptable than they used to be. Out of the 19 moral behaviors that Gallup measured, polygamy, cloning humans, and suicide have all moved towards an increase in acceptance. The behavior is still considered the least morally acceptable, cheating by married men and women, which we know, according, again, to statistics, 50%.
But polygamy is more acceptable now.
I can understand.
That surprises
I can
me.
understand the suicide thing when we had the issue with the California woman who moved
went
to
to
Oregon
right.
to do that doctor-assisted suicide. The polygamy thing, I just simply do not understand, especially when the least acceptable thing, according to that poll, is infidelity. I guess you're taking a marriage oath with multiple people, but still just doesn't seem...
I think there are some people who are just like, whatever you want to do behind closed doors is your own business, as long as you're honest about it. I think that's where a lot of people stand on that are for that.
The libertarian.
That is the libertarian,
viewpoint.
isn't it? Another social issue that may sway voters at the ballot box, abortion. According to Gallup, 21% of people now say they'll only vote for a candidate with the same abortion views as themselves. That is the highest percentage since early 2000.
Yeah. So I would imagine we will not hear Republican candidates talking about gay marriage, considering the tidal wave, unless...
With
you know,
37
it depends
states
what
now
happens with the
accepting
Supreme
it,
Court,
probably
right.
not.
I do think we will hear more Republican candidates talking about pro-life.
You think so?
Absolutely. Based on those numbers, the electorate saying this matters to them one way or the other, an area for Republicans to get that base of support out to the polls.
Well, especially hearing that, I'm surprised to see that issue kind of get a resurgence, that people are more willing to vote for people that have the exact same view they do on abortion. I find it interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, we like bringing that information to you, and we'll have more polls always right here on Newsmax Now. More to come. Stay with us.